Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome back to another lesson of the Arba'in of Imam Nawawi. Today we shall have a look at Hadith number 15, which the theme is speak good or remain silent. Remain silent. So the Hadith goes, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليقل خيرا أو ليصمت ومن كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم جاره ومن كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم ضيفه رواه البخاري ومسلم. So the English is, let him who believes in Allah and the last day speak good or keep silent, and let him who believes in Allah and the last day be generous to his neighbor, and let him who believes in Allah and the last day be generous to his guest. Furthermore, there is another Quranic ayah that says, not a word does he utter, but there is a watcher by him ready to record it. What this means is that nothing is of insignificance. Everything is of consequence. The tiniest thing that you do or utter has huge implications in this world and in the hereafter. Many people wade through life without caring the least on the effect and implications on their words, let alone their actions. Their actions, even though you perceive them to be a lot, will only be a factor of a 10 less than your words, because you utter far more words in your daily life than you do actions. Today many people yap all the time. People cannot stay quiet for a moment. What happened to dignified silence? Not only can we not stop speaking, we can't even sit still. Many people have invisible music playing in their mind, which they're always bopping and moving to, or they're miming words that nobody else can hear. A lot of that is mental illness. They've put so much filth and music into their minds that even in their moments of stillness, they're moving. They can't be still. And something is wrong in their physiognomy if they have to sit still. They get agitated. And it's nothing to do with ADHD, which, yes, children who suffer from that move around. But these adults have put this syndrome upon themselves due to a life of listening to stuff and filling their ears and their hearts with the superfluous and then acting it out. Today we have TikTok, we have YouTube shorts in where the most famous person is the one who can speak the loudest and the fastest and do a crazy action. This is what we've taken human dignity, the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah's best creation, given a mind that far supersedes anything else Allah's created in its connections. Allah, obviously the Allah says that the creation of the universe, the creation of the heavens and the earth, is a bigger creation than the earth. But I'm talking about the neural connections that we can make. It's more than the number of stars. More than the number of stars in the sky, the connections you could make with the neurons. It's the most complex organism that we know about. And it fits into this creation. This was solely created for one to know Allah. The heart has neurons, the brain has neurons, and the seat of understanding is the heart, and it logicizes, I can't get that word out, it gives logic and reason and understanding to belief through the rational thinking of the brain. So the soul, which resides metaphorically in the heart, and the intellect, which resides in the body, both are used. So the heart and the intellect are used by the soul to know Allah. That's your purpose of creation. And every religion has points of silence and meditation and musings, fikr. Rasulullah went away. He disconnected from population, from society, to ponder. There's that statue of a philosopher like this, pondering. The weight of the world is on him. He's thinking the heaviest questions. This is what man was created for. And today we've moved away from that and become bestial in our nature, and we speak. And speaking creates crime very, very easily. And we'll have a look at that now. So Imam Shafi'i, just as a point to start, reference point to start from, he says one should weigh his words. If you're doubtful that harm may result, don't say it and remain silent. So a classic example of this would be you want to reprimand somebody. For example, your wife or your wife with her husband, something has gone wrong, but you want to reprimand and you think it's the right moment. Really analyze yourself. Step away from your anger and ask yourself, is this the right moment? Am I doing this at the right time? Will there be repercussions? Will the fight increase? If the fight will increase, then Habibi, stop. Stop for a moment. Let the moment pass. My sister in Islam, let the moment pass. Find a right moment. This takes a certain amount of wisdom, and it needs calmness and coolness, because when one is angry, people say all sorts. People even speak hastily. If you look back 50, 60 years ago and watch videos on YouTube of people speaking 50, 60 years ago only, and then if you go back another 50 years, the speech just gets more grandiose and better. You find that everybody who learned English, I'm not sure how it is in other languages, but I'm guessing it will be the same. But certainly for English, because we all speak English and understand English, when we see them speaking, they don't yap. They're not quick to answer. They think. They always pause and they think and they answer in the most elegant of ways. And that's for anybody that learnt the English language, whether you're a native or non-native. And that's because in the past they had the trivium, the sciences of rhetoric, logic, and grammar, literature, humanities. Today we've taken that out of our curriculum. Nobody learns language through the grammar-based approach. So as a result, we don't sound articulate anymore. We don't weigh our words. Somebody might end up eloquent due to a good accent and a vast vocabulary, but if the grammar is lacking, it's still not balagha in your speech. You're still not pausing, you're still not thinking and saying the sentences in the best way possible. And that's what makes for beautiful speech, and that's what makes for calmness and thinking before you say anything. And it allows you the moment to think, should I say this or should I not say this? Should I stay silent? Today we're taught to just yap. And the new generation, all they've learned is yapping, because when they watch YouTube, even if it's an Islamic lecture, I would hazard a guess and say about 80% of the youth, or 80% of people, and I would say probably 90% of the youth or 95% of the youth, I'm talking late teenagers, early 20s, mid 20s, that 10-year, 15 to 25, they get their Islamic education on TikTok and YouTube. On top of the lack of manners, on top of the backbiting, putting people down that they're learning, thinking this is a part of Islam, they're getting bad speech, because people are speaking. I mean, I look stupid doing this. I look silly doing this, but I'm just trying to show you this is what happens. There's no dignity. Are you following the sunnah of Rasulullah or the companions or even your shayukh? What happened to your dignified manner of speech? But you can't even sit through a 1-hour lecture anymore. A 30-second TikTok video with is enough for you. And that's what you're learning and then passing on. It's a disgrace, as the Victorians would say. This is disgraceful. It's a crying shame. We don't tend to use words like disgrace or crying shame anymore, because in our society today, we've lost the understanding of what shame is, and we've lost the complete meaning of what it means to be in disgrace. To be in disgrace in the Victorian era was a severe thing. When your child would end up in disgrace in society, it was a slap across the whole family's face. That child wouldn't show itself in public anymore. Even the family would be ashamed for a long time to come. And I'm using it in the same heavy way that the Victorians would use it and say it's a disgrace what we as a society have done to our children and ourselves by taking Islam through TikTok and YouTube. And you'll see the repercussions of this. Give it another 10 years and you'll see the repercussions of this. Already you can see the repercussions of this. So speak good or remain silent. The hadith starts with whoever believes in Allah and the last day. Whoever believes in Allah and the last day. Why this? Many reasons why this. Belief is tied to action. So people, you'll always hear, son do this, don't do this, daughter do this, don't do this, student do this, don't do this, ya akhi, don't do this, my sister don't do this, everybody don't do this. We're always hearing this and we tend to become deaf to this. It's just another hadith, it's just another na'udhu billah Quranic ayah, it's just another teacher saying something. But when you change your stratagem and say whoever believes in the last day, this makes people wake up and think, whoa, that's heavy. What's he going to say? I mean, why is he tied belief to what he's going to say? It's a rhetorical device to make you think. Everybody believes in the last day. Even before this was said, when you're giving them warnings because they believe in the last day and they know those warnings mean something, but people become tone deaf. People become deaf to warnings. That's just human nature, unless they're God conscious, which takes a whole another way of living, right? So you have to use different devices. It's like when Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O believers. The people in Mecca, Allah was speaking to the people, especially in Medina, when Allah was speaking to the people, not in Mecca, they were all believers. When He was speaking to the companions of Rasulullah, but why use this device? Again, it's the same understanding. So bringing it, oh, you who believes in the last day, it's bringing it very close. Sometimes we do actions and we're heedless of the punishment that's awaiting us. Depending on our internal state, if you've come out of, for example, a month of Taraweeh, you come back from Hajj, you've been sitting in gatherings, you've stopped bad company, you'd gain a hal, and that looming punishment seems close. And then you think, okay, this is a close reminder. And other times, if you're just giving a speech and you say this, all of a sudden it brings it very home, very close to a person. So it's like, wow, he's going to give me a reminder, and he's mentioned heaven and hell straight away, and he's brought it to right up to my nose. It just makes it more intimate and personal. These are rhetorical devices. It's a constant reminder to change as well. Why the emphasis on these three things? Because in the hadith, because the inward is a reflection of the outward. Samurai Jack summed it up beautifully. He says, the intentions you make and the actions that follow. Let's start again. The intentions you make and the actions that follow are a reflection of who you truly are. You cannot hide from yourself. So this is exactly what's happening here. That beautiful statement sums up what we're trying to achieve here. Your internal state will reflect on your outside. Your outside will have a reflection on your inside, but not as powerful as your internal state will have on your outside. For example, a man lies under it's a saying, a man lies under his tongue. Whatever you are, just sit with someone for a few hours. Whatever he is will come out. All the filth or the goodness will come out with the utterances of his tongue. So this hadith is just homing in. It's just homing in and hitting you right here. The seat of your existence, the seat of your soul, the seat of your understanding of everything. Look at the inside, because that speech has 2 pointers. One is a reflection for yourself internally. Oh my God, I said this. This is my state. I used this bad word. I said this bad thing to people. I've analyzed myself for a whole day and all I've done is said bad things to people. So if you self-reflect, you're thinking, oh my God, this is how dirty and disgusting I am from inside. I look beautiful, my clothes are beautiful, everything is lovely from the outside. But the inside is what Allah looks at. Allah looks at the hearts. And I am a witness to myself through my own words of how bad I am from the inside. And then the outside reflection is what everybody else sees, which those words end up creating actions. For example, if you're angry and you say a word, that builds up towards a fight. And then ultimately your limbs are going to join in, and then you will start a fight. Whereas that same word said in a beautiful way, for example, as a word of advice, the extreme end of that is what your limbs would end up doing that advice. So the inward is for yourself, the outward, it shows you. Again, it also shows you and it shows the world, this is who I am. Look, this is who I am. Whatever I was on the inside is now on the outside. I can't hide from myself, as Samurai Jack says. Complete faith is the inside and it is the outside. How many a person becomes religious and the first thing they do is, and you've seen it many a time, let's put the Arab scarf on. Why the Arab scarf? Some sort of misguided understanding that to be a Muslim means you wear the Arabian distache, which was an English invention that they gave to them anyway, because the original Arabian scarf wasn't the checkered tea party tablecloth, it was something else. And then they wear the jubba. Again, what's the jubba got to do with your spirituality? You're in England, it's -5, Habibi. What's the need for a white? And even the Arabs, they don't wear white. They tend to wear darker colors in the winter season because they don't want splashes on their clothes that will show, and then they can't wash out. And they'll go to the mosque, and they'll be feel good meetings, and they'll sit with people discussing the tiny bit of information that they have, and then slowly that moves back into their gossip and everything. What about your internal state? What about sitting with a sheikh and saying, Sheikh, I've come from a very bad background. I've repented. I'm turning towards Allah and I need you to instruct me. That religious teacher would tell you, oh, mashallah, very nice. Yes, of course, the outward looks glorious. Your dress, wow, Habibi. I mean, the sunnah is just to dress nice. I can't say you're dressing as the sunnah, as in the literal sunnah, wearing your thin thobe. But the idea is there, yes. So we can say, to dress nice is sunnah dress. Okay, Habibi, you're dressing nice as per sunnah. But now let's concentrate on the internal. And the internal is much more hard work than just dressing nice. Let's look at your words. The top end of your words, the ones that are glaringly obvious, lying, backbiting, swearing, slandering, cursing, everybody can see them. Even you can see them and I can see them. But Habibi, the subtle, the slight change of tone when you spoke to someone, the condescending attitude, getting annoyed with people, changing your tone when you speak to your parents, saying things to put people down, or a careless remark here, oh, you're zero, oh, you're rubbish, oh, even that person outside is better than you. Tiny things like that. You can't see that. And a true sheikh will see those things and give you checks and balances and activities and exercises, putting them in place to make sure that you master your own internal state. How many a person have you seen that they look the part, but they're still abusing people, still saying bad things, still doing bad things? You'll find the most beautifully decked out people in the mosque sometimes or outside, and they'll do something that will annoy you. It's happened to me. How do you bypass this? How does the one who's doing this bypass this, and how does the one who's been inflicted bypass this? Obviously, good manners from both sides. Part of good manners is good speech. If only that person had learned tasawwuf, ihsan, beautification, the fiqh of haram and halal, knowing what he's doing, being aware. And then comes the mushahida, watching oneself. And all this takes time. And eventually you have a beautiful specimen, perfect in his words. And the mistakes become far and in between, where he's not going around hurting people with his words. He's refined his speech. That's what we want. And you could be dressing bad, but in front of Allah, if you're that person with the beautiful manners, Rasulullah said, I came to perfect beautiful manners. Nobility is nobility wherever you go in the world. Everybody understands nobility. It's what you do. You can put a tramp and give him noble attributes, and that would be more beloved to Allah. Tramp means someone badly dressed. Than someone who has noble clothing, but his khuluq, his seerah, his ikhlaq is all over the place. So we have to perfect from the inside out. People neglect the inside. We need to look at the inside and watch our words. This can equally go to your manners, your sins, but on this hadith, we're just focusing on complete faith is a transformation of the internal and the external. And then you've completed your faith. We often end up lopsided. As I said before, words have weight. The first thing that came down are the words of Allah when Allah said, Ikra, Bismi Rabbika alladhi khalaq. Ikra, read in the name of your Lord. That's the first thing that was commanded to Rasulullah. Read. A word determines your ultimate faith. One word will get you into heaven, and one word will get you into hell, either eternally or for a while. But it's one word. We know from Hadith, we know that one word can have all your sins forgiven and elevate you to the highest ranks. And then one word, doesn't matter how religious you were, can drop you into the pits of hell. And we'll have a look at Hadith later on, inshallah, regarding this. So words have power. We've always heard this, words have power. A simple word, for example, what's a marriage? It's just two words. Most people think they see the ceremonies and think, oh, this is it. This is a marriage. It's actually two words. It's an offer and acceptance. Jawab Qabul, it's just an offer. I marry you. And the girl says, I accept you. And the marriage is done in front of witnesses. That's why they say never joke. Words are so powerful. Never joke with the word divorce. Never joke with the word marriage. And never joke with freeing a slave. It's hadith for Rasulullah that, be careful. Even in jest, if you freed a slave, he's free. And then you're going to have problems thinking, I just freed a very expensive slave. This is in the past, right? And then you want to claim him back, but he's now free. And, the joy he experiences. Don't jest with these things. Even many people, they jest with, I call it kalamata because it's so dangerous to use, the divorce word. Many people jest with this word with their spouses, not realizing that they have ended up separating. But they jest with it like it's normal because they've not studied the fiqh of words, the fiqh of marriage, right? And the fiqh of marriage is what? Words. A lot of it is words. Hadith, the states that three things are taken seriously, and even when joking, taken seriously: marriage, divorce, and freeing a slave. Business deals are just words. It's a handshake. It's a word, and there could be a handshake or not. It's a word and a handshake. It's the word, basically. They can come crashing down, and even the most strongest person, a metaphorical mountain, crashing down and destroy that mountain, or they can uplift. They have the power to uplift a soul. How many times have you made your spouses cry? Mostly it's men making their spouse cry. How many times have you made your children cry? How many times have you told your children off and they've developed a psychological problem where their whole life they seek assurance and affirmation from the father and they never get it? And there's always something lacking inside them. You can put a person down and one day you break them and they never rise. And if you find a broken person, your words can heal them. And you can make hero to zero. You can make hero to zero and zero to hero through words. And especially if you're in a position of power over that person, i.e., a husband over a wife, a teacher over a student, a father over a son or daughter, you can very easily break them. A small child has, hurt themselves and they come up to you and you say, oh, it's okay, baby. And they're okay. You give them a kiss and the pain goes. That's all they need, right? That's all people need. How many times Have you seen this? Even in real life, your spouse just wants you to hear you say sorry. That's it. The half an hour argument could have been resolved just by saying sorry. Or she wants to hear, I love you. Or you want to hear it. And because you don't hear it, you get straggly. You have a problem, a chip on your shoulder now. It's just words. He who believes in the last day, say the positive, say the good, or remain silent. The apparent of your faith is linked to words. So, for example, your faith is inside you. You don't need to declare it. If you didn't declare it your whole life, would you be a Muslim? Yes, you'd be a Muslim. Even if you didn't utter, I mean, there's a difference of agreement between the two schools, but even if you didn't utter the words, يعني amantu billah wa rasulihi, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. If you didn't even utter the words, but faith is inside you, you're a Muslim, right? But in public, the public will deal with you based on the apparent. You needed to have uttered that word. Why? Because it's to do with marriage and inheritance and everything else, that a functioning member of society living in a society, you have to interact. So for Islamic purposes, you would be treated in a different way if you don't utter your shahada as opposed to if you utter your shahada. Again, the power of words. The best of jihad is to speak a true word in front of an oppressor. In front of an oppressor, you have to speak out sometimes. You have to speak out. And if you decide to stay quiet, then you're going to cause more harm. We're talking about the ministers and the wazirs and the people around the king or the dictator or the hakim, the ruler, whatever his status may be. If they can see things are going wrong, they need to have a quiet word with him. But many of them don't because they're scared of their positions, they're scared of punishment, retribution, and so forth. The best of jihad at that time is for you to speak out to him. For the everyday person, if you know you're going to get shot, then obviously you don't speak out. But we're talking about people who have influence around him. But most often than not, they probably don't speak out because they're too concerned with this dunya. Sometimes we don't know what people are going through. You could see a person from the outside looking all cheerful and happy, but you don't know the trouble he's going through, whether it's financial, emotional, familial, children, work. You don't know. And your tiny word can hurt him, can literally, it's like a mountain falling on him. And you're going to suffer the consequences in the hereafter. Whereas if he's in a strong position, he's just had a new promotion, he's just got married and, he's on top of the world, that happiness feeling, the hormones, the feel good endorphins are flowing through you, and your mountain you throw at him, he would just brush it off and walk, probably even laugh at you and walk away because his state was strong. But if his state was weak and you cause a lot of pain to that person, your tiny word, the repercussions with Allah are extreme. So it's something you need to really be careful about. You don't know what people are going through, so it's best just to, a polite way of saying, shut up. An impolite way of saying. There's a hadith narrated by Aisha, al-Mu'mineen, anha. I said to the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is enough for you in Safiya that she is such and such, meaning that she was short in height. He replied, you have said a word which would change the sea if it were mixed in it. She said, I imitated a man before him out of disgrace. He said, I do not like that. I imitate anyone even if I should get such and such. So the word she just said, one of your wives is short. Now, most people don't understand backbiting and tail bearing and all the other spin-offs around it. It's not going to mention it here because it's literally a whole course, literally a whole course in and of itself. You think you can go around saying, oh yeah, I met that person today, he's got a big nose. Did you see his hairstyle? He doesn't comb his hair. You're sinning. You're literally sinning. You think I'm not backbiting. I didn't say he drinks alcohol even though I saw him. Oops, that's a backbite. I didn't say, he does so. I didn't say he was having an argument with him and I'm just telling a third. I just said, oh, look at him. His dress isn't all that. His jumper isn't all that. All of that comes under tail bearing and backbiting of various levels. Save it. You don't need to tell the world he has a bad nose. You could say, if he has a beautiful nose, you could say, MashaAllah, look, Allah's endowed him with a very noble nose. Or Allah's gave him a beautiful hairstyle. That's understandable. But have you seen his shaggy mop? If he heard that, that would hurt him. So you need to really be careful. It's not just backbiting as in I'm revealing something bad about him or a secret about him or something, he said, she said, he said, she said, backbiting. No. Even describing him. Rasulullah said here, your words would change the color of the ocean if it had been mixed with it. It would change the sea, and the sea is something that even if you were to throw an island's worth of color into it, it would have no effect on the sea. But this tiny word, she is short. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. May Allah save us from this. How many times in a day do we do stuff like this without even realizing? Because we're heedless and not God conscious. Many a time, impermissible speech starts from permissible speech. Conversations really get dangerous for everybody is when you say, oh, how's so-and-so doing? How's your mate Iqbal doing? And then, oh, Iqbal just lost his job. Oh, really? Why is that? Oh, yeah, he had a fight with his boss. Ding. There's your first problem. Oh, really? He had a fight. What did he say? Oh, he went into the office and, he threw the book at him and then he threw he ended up kicking him out and now you are backbiting on various levels. It's that simple. Somebody asked Imam Malik about so and so. He looked at him and said, "Mind your own business." The guy must have felt very abrupt and stunned, thinking, "Mind my own business," meaning, do your own thing. Don't be concerned about others because the minute you start talking about others, you move into dangerous territory. So there's enough to talk about when you're with a friend. There's enough to talk about your own lives than to rattle on about third people. Only people who don't have anything to say or want to get one over everybody else would do that. So be mindful of that. Have you ever heard of the adage, silence is golden? Try this for a day. Try to make a vow to stay silent. Many religions have this. You will find out how difficult it is and you will also find out the benefits of it. So we have like samt in Arabic, the word, and we have sukut. Samt is like, like to withhold. It's a dignified, noble withholding, something with a benefit, right? So for example, saum, fasting, right? It means to withhold. Withhold what? Food and drink from yourself and to deprive your desires in every other area. So but then we have the word sukut, which is to stay silent, but this is to stay silent when you could have said something, right? Like in Arabic when you say uskut, be quiet. You are saying something and you were told to be quiet. Samt is something that you have chosen to do for a dignified reason. For example, Samit, when we say, huwa Samit, ismu Samit, his name is Samit. He's the silent one, the dignified one. People of silence are dignified. Everybody would say the silent one is dignified. They're people who sit down in a gathering and they just observe. People will also observe after a while that there's a noble gravity around them, and they may even feel a little bit intimidated because the observer is just looking at you. When you're going, ha ha ha, this happened, that happened, and trying to be the joker of the crowd, he's just looking at you, up and down, looking at you. And he's formulated 10 opinions about you. He's observed you so well that he's read you 5 years ahead and 5 years back. And those people have power. They have grace, they have dignity and slight haiba. They have like awe about them. Whereas you're the practical joker, you're nobody. You think you're making everybody laugh, but maybe people will like you and love you on a particular level, but that's your level. You don't have haiba. Yes, when a person of haiba jokes, even his joking is dignified. That's nothing wrong with that, but I'm sure everybody understands what I'm trying to say here now. So another crude example would be, compare gangsters. Compare like the mafia don in the movies. In real life it would be different, but in the movie, for example, Godfather, dignified, well dressed, restrained, restrained anger, restrained speech, restrained everything. And then you get people from like the street gangs, the Bloods, the Crips. They can't even stand still, and they're popping around, moving around, dressed trashy, speaking trash, finger signs and tattoos. Which one looks more dignified? You know, on the apparent, right? Because obviously, when the Mafia Don opens his mouth, you'll find out that behind his words is filth as well. And straight away the persona will crumble and the dignity and everything will go. It's fake. But if he were to stay silent, for a moment, you'd feel the presence, right? I'm just trying to build the picture here. So stay silent for a day. Make that vow. Stay silent. You'll see things happen. One thing that will happen is you'll start to think more and think on a deeper level, because now you're not feeding, your energy is not being used in prattling. And the people like to hear their own voice. And when you prattle, you're satisfying one of your organs. You're satisfying one of your urges. Whereas to become Samit is to withhold. So become Samit for the sake of your tongue. Shh. For a whole day, stay quiet. And you see, you'll get an opening, right? You'll have an opening and you'll start to ponder on deeper levels. You'll see reality in a different way. You'll even start to see how bad people are, how bad they look when they talk too much. And then as the openings get clearer and penetrating and higher, you get openings about Allah. Because ultimately your mind will always everything is heading towards the same direction. So you're going to end up thinking about Him, the source of all. Your mind will go back to Him. And that comes through silence. This is the reason why all religions have silence. So try that. The golden silence. Become Samit. So the dangers of the tongue. As a hadith, I'm reading the end part of it. I said, O Prophet of Allah, will what we say be held against us? He said, may your mother be bereaved of you. Mu'adh, is there anything that topples people on their faces, or he said on their noses, into hellfire other than the harvests of their tongues? In another hadith, Rasulullah said that whoever can guarantee me this, and he pointed between the legs, if you can guarantee me this and that, I can guarantee you paradise. So Rasulullah is saying, I will guarantee you paradise if you can control this and what's between your legs. Those two are the source of so much evil brought upon yourself and society. If only you can keep shut, how many a sin would you have saved yourself from? You, for example, may do zina once a year, and it's a massive crime. And then you're doing the same massive crime by hurting people day in and day out, day in and day out. And you think by the end of the year, you think, oh, well, I didn't do zina, so, my scale is going to be like, it's going to be okay, kind of, this is going to be heavy because there was only zina once. You're kidding yourself. Yes, zina is bad, but your whole year of major sins of hurting people, major sins, of course they're going to be more than your zina. People don't realize this. Keep this shut, keep your legs tightly shut, and you have a fighting chance. Even if you don't fight, Rasulullah would guarantee you paradise. Are you willing to take this offer? Are you willing to take this offer? Rasulullah is giving you a guaranteed pass into paradise. And what are you doing? Prattling away? Why? He's basically giving you the secret code. You're a Muslim? Yes, I'm a Muslim. Okay, shut it, shut it. That's your secret code. You'll have like a cheat code. There's your cheat code. Have you taken the cheat code? If not, why not? When everybody plays a game, a life is like a game. You're earning credits to be used later on. You're amassing credits to be used later on. Who does not want a cheat code every now and then? And you're just saying, no, it's okay. Yeah, I know the cheat code, but I'm going to soldier it on by knocking people out with my words. Okay, Habibi. You can do that, but that's madness. It's not going to get you anywhere. You have lives in your games. You can start your games again, but you only have one life in this game. Also, Rasulullah said that beware of too much laughter, for it deadens the heart and takes away the light of your face. I said, tell me more. This is a hadith. Someone kept asking Rasulullah for more information. The Prophet said, speak the truth even if it is bitter. قُلِ الْحَقَّ وَإِنْ كَانَ مُرًّا. I said, tell me more. The Prophet said, لا تخاف في الله يومة لَعِبٍ. Do not fear the blame of any critic in the matter of Allah. So if you are doing something and you're fearing, oh, people are looking, what am I doing? I'm praying in the corner of the park and people are going to look, and forget the people. Do what you have to do. But that's not the topic here. The topic is the first part, speak the truth even if bitter, right? Sometimes speaking the truth to people needs to be said, but we look at the wisdom of how it's said. That's a interesting subject of the rules of how to say, when not to say. The first part, laughter, it will deaden the heart, and you will observe this. Number one, people that laugh like like silly laughter, they look outrageous, they look very silly. It's not very dignified. Second thing is that if you're always laughing, it deadens the heart, because you become mughafil, heedless of what you should be focused on. He who knows that there's a pit of fire in front of him doesn't laugh. Rasulullah admonished people that laugh less and forsake your sides at night, because if you knew what I knew, you wouldn't laugh the way you do. He who knows just beyond the veil, beyond your door, is a pit of fire waiting for the ones who are heedless. They don't laugh. He who knows there's a firing squad tomorrow for him to face, or it's his last day on earth, will spend his day in worship, not laughing. Laughing has its place, and smiling is better than laughing. And then if you do break out into a laughter, a beautiful, dignified laughter, and then quickly, most people, laughing is their goal. Oh yeah, let's have a giggle. It's good to have a bubble, good to have a giggle. So they'll meet up in restaurants and they'll spend 3 hours laughing voraciously. You've eaten, you've passed a joke or two. Habibi, get up now and go and do what you were meant to do in this world. Anas ibn Malik reported, Rasulullah said, the faith of a servant is not upright until his heart is upright, and his heart is not upright until his tongue is upright. A man will not enter paradise if his neighbor is not secure from his evil. A strong warning here. We covered the first part of it, now the second part, and it's to do with being good to neighbors as well. Abu Musa reported, they said, O Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whose Islam is best? Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Man salim al muslimuna min lisanihi wa yadihi. One from whose tongue the Muslims' hands are safe, and one from whose tongue and hand Muslims are safe. So ask yourself, the one with the best Islam is the one who everybody is safe from his hands and his tongue. You may not harm people through your hands, but nobody can say they're not harming people through their words. This is something that really we need to think about as Muslims, myself including. It's a painful lesson being derived from this hadith here for everybody. So the best practice is what? Remain silent and contemplative. Rasulullah was generally a silent person. Someone always thinking, someone always silent. There's deep gravity in that. Yes, he was a social prophet when he needed to be, but in his natural fitrah, he wasn't the outgoing, boisterous, loud, shooting the breeze type of a person. No, he was quite contemplative, thinking. Be like that. Be like that. Think before you prattle. Think before you open your mouth. Think, is it worth it, or can I stay silent? If you feel your words will hurt, change them or remain silent. There's a right time to speak, and if it is the right time and you want to say something and you know it's going to trigger someone, change your words. If not, it's better for you to remain silent. Nothing has changed in the world. Nothing will change. Swallow it. Swallow your pride. This is difficult, But then who said playing a game on all the highest levels, is easy? Life is not easy. It's a test, and you want to pass this test. And everything becomes easy once you master it. Then the second part of the hadith concerns neighbors. Now, this is another very dangerous one. People are very, very heedless of their neighbors. Very, very heedless. And if you're thinking, no, I'm not, or yes, I am, but I know where I am, and it's probably just ABC. Well, I'll show you today it's A to Z. And then some of these things you wouldn't have thought about properly, and then you're thinking, wow, this is so true, this fits me, I should really, really change up. So for example, some people who are, that are really bad, they knowingly harm their neighbors. Many people have the Joneses or the Iqbals and the problems they have with them, and that's a deliberate harm. So we're not going to talk about that. Inshallah, you're not of those. We're talking about the ones who unknowingly harm their neighbors. For example, noise. 11 o'clock is lights out for most people. Walls are thin. If you're living in terraced housing, do you realize that when you're speaking loudly, you're disturbing them who are sleeping only one wall away from you? And you're like, no, this is my space, my house. I can do what I want. Maybe you can't. If that was your outlook, then go and buy an outhouse somewhere, in like a field, and go and live amongst the cows. Because you cannot make noise in your own house after certain hours. Forget the garden. I mean, you can't party late into the night in the garden, but even inside your house, keep it down. Be mindful. You shouldn't be watching TV anyway, but if you are, put it down. You do realize that your TV is sitting on the wall that's going into the neighbor's wall, maybe their bedroom. Keep your stuff down after a certain hour. The same goes for music, the same goes for parties, family gatherings. People have family gatherings late into the night, and they're laughing, joking, not realizing that the neighbor has a 6 o'clock start tomorrow morning. People don't care. Your neighbor has a right over you. You're causing a major sin each time you do these things. Just because your neighbor doesn't say anything, he doesn't want to rock the boat, the silence, he just wants to keep it smooth, doesn't mean he's not suffering. Even if he's bearing it, he's still suffering. You're to blame. Wedding parties. Now, this happened to me 3 times. I've been to 3 different countries where I've witnessed wedding parties, and late into the night. So in country A, I'm not going to mention, I remember about 3 o'clock in the morning, a wedding party went past. I mean, people have had their half sleep. 3 hours is Fajr. And a convoy goes past with the most loudest booming music. And you're thinking, what? It sounded like a convoy. It's probably just one car or 2 cars. But the music was that loud. You're thinking, what are you doing? Who are you doing this for? You don't have a regard for anybody. And in Muslim countries, the roads are small. Neighborhood roads are small. Houses are very close to each other. You're driving past, waking the whole neighborhood. Seriously, this is madness. I really wish they had some law in place where they'd have those kind of guys punished for what they're doing. Whipped even. And another country, I was sleeping in somebody's house in the front room, and a wedding couple, just the bride and groom alone, came and entered their house. And I had to go and investigate, look out the window thinking, what's going on here? Because of the noise. And it was a village. They just came back to the village and they had music blaring. Again, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something, 2 o'clock in the morning. What was the need for that? But total disregard for everybody in that village. And then in the third country, they had a wedding party just outside my bedroom window, and they're celebrating loudly. I can't sleep, and then everything goes silent for about half an hour, and you're finally, like the Tom and Jerry scene where you're settling in now. Finally, the party's over and you can sleep. All of a sudden, like a pistol, a gun goes off. Like one shot, complete discharge, and it's so loud. A pistol that close is very loud. I was just jolted awake and I put my head out the window from the top and I saw two, three guys standing in the garden where the wedding had finished now. Everybody had gone home, but they just decided to offload their gun into the sky. And I said to them, I said, what are you doing? And they literally looked at me like I was mad, like, what's wrong with you? Because it was a wedding, right? For them, it was like it's allowed. But seriously, is that how far Muslims have come? None of these things would happen in England. In England, if you had a party after a certain time, you can ring the police and they'll knock on the door and saying, hey, quieten it down. You can get a county court judgment out on them. You could probably take them to the magistrates and say, look, disturbing the peace. But what's happened to Muslim countries? Smells. I've got one big problem. Where I'm living, somebody, a neighbor, has probably moved upstairs or moved downstairs. I don't know. But all of a sudden, especially when I open the toilet, I think it's to do with the vents in the building, right? Literally, it's like he's smoking in my toilet. And it's that bad. And that smell permeates the room, the other room outside, and even sometimes my bedroom. There's nothing I can do about it. I don't know whether it's the upstairs neighbor or the downstairs neighbor. But he's probably smoking in the toilet. But it's like he's smoking in my toilet. Now, if I knocked on the upstairs or downstairs neighbor, they would look at me like I'm mad. I have an old man that lives opposite me and he smokes at the end of the corridor. And I've told him, I've said, listen, just go downstairs 2 flights and you're in the open. But he doesn't do it. He would stand in the stairwell smoking. He doesn't, I've told him many times and he just smirks. Because he doesn't know how to live with neighbors. Cooking smell. How many times have you cooked your chicken madras or your chicken tikka masala if you're in England? Right? We don't cook that. Chicken tikka, whatever. You've cooked your strong smelling curries, but you've not cared about your neighbor. Curry is nice when you eat it, but the smell isn't nice. And it's all going into his garden, into his house. You could have closed the door, you could have done something, but you're heedless, you don't care. What about ugly gardens? He has a right to look from his upstairs window into the vista in front of him, which is 2 gardens this way, 2 gardens that way, and 1 garden that way, and see something beautiful because he's created a beautiful garden for himself. But what you've done is you've kept yours deadly ugly, and as a result, it's an eyesore. And every time he opens the window, instead of him feeling elated, it's like a toxic dump, and he thinks, oh my God, and his mood's off. Fix your garden. Feel house proud. And late night, another problem I've got here is people tend to gossip right outside my door. There's an area and the housewives will speak here and shout to each other. The kids will play football here. This is not a place. The amount of times I've opened the door and said, listen, this is not a place to play football. Go downstairs. And I've even told the family, there's a kid that comes out and door open. The minute the door opens, he starts crying. I don't know what's wrong with him. And he stands there crying and the family's there. A few times I've gone out and said, listen, please, I'm trying to study. Otherwise, they don't care. They just don't care. These are some of the problems you'll see in Muslim countries. I'm not saying they don't happen in non-Muslim countries, but if you're living in decent areas, it's less. But you'll see more of this. I mean, even in decent areas in that one country I went to, they shot the gun. So it's nothing to do with decent area or not decent area. It's the people need to have manners of the rights of neighbors. Sadly, Muslims lack that. I lived in the 4th country where I had neighbors from hell on the roof, upstairs. I would knock on their door at 2 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, saying, listen, what's going on? I have work tomorrow. And the guy comes out once and he says, I can answer you in a really bad way if I want, but I'm not going to. You've already insulted me just by saying that. I'm asking for my right and you have a problem with it? Well, Allah will recompense me. We pray for their forgiveness and Allah will recompense us. But it's not nice. You don't get that problem so much in the West, but you get this everywhere in the East, in Muslim countries. Why? Where are our basic manners? We don't even know our neighbors. How many of us know our neighbors? Being kind to your neighbors means knowing about them. We don't check up on them. How many times have we just knocked on the door? Oh, hi, are you okay? Giving them something, giving them a present, a chocolate box. You've made some samosas, giving them samosas, giving them something. And that will engender love. Sometimes inviting them around. In Ramadan, giving them things as a form of da'wah, even not as a form of da'wah, just to engender love and harmony between your neighbors. You're one community. Traditionally, people lived in pockets of communities. Today, we don't know our neighbors. And your neighbor isn't just one on your right or left. Technically, the whole street can count as your neighbor. If a Sainsbury's comes in between, that counts as your neighbor. So when you're taking Sainsbury's trolleys home and throwing them away, you're abusing the rights of your neighbor. So these are things that you need to also think about. You can't abuse the rights of your massive multi-billion-dollar supermarket neighbor or anybody else, any other company. Be mindful about neighbors 40 houses each way around you. We don't even help them in their routines. Sometimes an old man is cutting his grass. He's your neighbor, and you're sitting there lounging in the sun and drinking your cocktail, and you don't think to yourself, let me just go and help him. Let me just jump over the fence and help him. Even if he says, no, I'm going to jump over the fence and help him. We don't care about these things. This is all being kind to your neighbor. Honor them, honor your neighbors, invite them to your events. When you have a party, invite them. When you have a marriage, they're the first one who should get a card. Anything else that happens on Eid, give them gifts. In Ramadan, give them gifts. Send them a goodie bag. Now we've entered Ramadan, start sending your neighbors goodie bags. This engenders love. And invite a non-Muslim neighbor over for tea. Some don't even know what a Muslim house looks like. They have stereotypical ideas of what Muslim houses look like. Invite them. Do something for them. When they find out, oh wow, these are normal people. Their houses are like 2 sofas there, like tea is being served. Oh, they've got a desk and a computer in the corner. Oh, there's a widescreen TV there. All of a sudden they think, whoa, they're the same as us. I've been told by a non-Muslim that she thought Muslim houses were different. And when she went inside and she went, oh, and she was literally shocked that everything is the same. It's like when many non-Muslims think that hijab donning women, they even go to sleep in a hijab. They wear that in the house. But they don't know that in the house they take it off. If you're amongst non-Muslim female friends, if you invite them round, when they see you take the hijab off, it becomes a talking point amongst yourselves. Where you can introduce ideas of Islam. It's very easy to introduce ideas of Islam in a non-threatening way, but it just takes some kind of forward thinking, and beautiful manners inside that forward thinking. After prayer, instead of hanging around street corners, Muslims tend to disturb others outside mosques, right? Just keep quiet and walk home. Don't speak loudly on the way to the mosque, on the way back. Don't congregate outside the mosque. Don't congregate on people's walls. Everybody does this. Don't do this. Don't congregate on the street corner at the end of the road. Your neighbors, just invite someone round. He's a neighbor. Invite him round for a surprise tea. You don't need to feed him a 3-course meal, but just invite him round. He will really appreciate that. It's better to do that than to just stand on street corners gossiping. Say, Habibi, come round. Let's have a quick tea and chat. Give him 2 biscuits and he will love you for this. It makes for a strong community that's tight-knit in a country that doesn't foster this kind of stuff. So in England, community spirit isn't fostered like it is in the East. But if you start doing this with your community, you foster that tight-knit. No one's going to look at you as a stranger. They see you as an extension of their own family, which is what people generally saw them as. Guests, honoring the guest. So honoring the guest. Hospitality is one of the pillars of the religion for anybody that has any doubt. Hospitality is a massive thing. Whoever believes in Allah and the last day, then honor your guest. Honor your guest. What does honoring guest mean? I'll tell you a story. I went to someone's house and started practicing. And I sat there in his house for 12 hours. And he never once gave me a drink, bought me food, or cooked, or gave me tea. I'm not sure if he gave me tea or not, but I was there for 12 hours. And I didn't think anything, but I just thought, that's not very dignified of you. That's all I thought. And he was talking about Islam, trying to convince me that his version of Islam was correct and debating with me. This is in my younger years. But what happened to your basic etiquettes, the rights that a guest has over you? People really chase the wrong things when it comes to religion. So whoever believes in Allah and the last day, then honor your guests. Invite them, feed them, even if it's very basic. Everybody can give tea. Everybody can give coffee. Everybody can give a biscuit. Do that. it engenders love, it breaks down bridges, it builds bridges. Ihsan and ikram to your guests is to rush and serve them, greet them with joy. I'll tell you another story. We went to a house, me and my brother-in-law went to a house, he has a charity, to ask for charity. And uh, while they were having that business meeting, food came, right? They're asking for money. And then the food came, so the subject was, wrapped up. And as I'm eating, the guy's sitting next to me, and it's like he's my personal servant. And it was the most best feeling in the world. He would literally hand me the khubas, the chapati, right? The roti. He would literally give it to me. And when he saw I was finished, he would break another half and then have it there ready to be cold. And it was like he was my personal assistant. And I just loved that manners of that guy so much. It was amazing. And I've never seen anybody else do this, but it was the most amazing feeling. And generally, when you go to the Middle East and you're fed, this was in England, but when you go to the Middle East and you're fed by people, they will literally break pieces of the meat of the bone and break it and give it to you, right? Give you the choicest pieces of meat on the table. They will do that. It's very different from saying, and I understand in England, where the culture is different. It's like, oh, in the kitchen, help yourself. There's the fridge, help yourself. Or, here's the food, here's the food, here's the food. You eat, you eat. I'm okay. It's that just doesn't feel right anymore. Sit down with him. The etiquettes of eating are that if he's eating, you eat with him. And especially in the Middle East, if you don't eat, they will not eat. And you need to, this is one of those instances where you can overeat without being sinful because he's eating. Don't finish until he's eaten. And if you've already eaten, then don't say, "Oh, I've already eaten, you eat." No, just stay silent and eat again. Even if you're just playing with your food and eating, do it until until he doesn't stop. These are the manners of your ihsan, excellence. When you give them a cup of tea, don't just give them like half dripping cup or just in a glass and say, "Oh, sorry, I couldn't find a cup." No, go out of your way. Find a nice cup. Wash the nice cup. Even if it's a normal cup, put it in a pirach, whatever they call it, the saucer, and give it to him. Give some water with it. Even if you find a date, do ihsan in what you're doing. Make what you're doing beautiful. When a guest comes to your house, pamper them. Take their shoes. Tell them to put their feet up. Sit up, and have even somebody wash their shoes. Like, oh, they've come in from the outside. Just a family member can wash clean the muck off their shoes. So when they finish, it's like, wow. Or if they put their coat out and it's wet, dry their coat for them. Pamper them. You're not their slave. You're earning Jannah for yourself. You're following the Hadith of Rasulullah, which is honor your guest. He's your guest. He has rights over you. Make him feel welcome. Not thinking, "Oh my God, I felt so uncomfortable. I don't want to go around that guy's house anymore." In fact, the experience was so traumatic. I felt like a stranger. I'm never going to go around anybody's house anymore. Sometimes people think like this, right? Think that you have a king come to your house for a day and treat them like a king. Once they've eaten, take everything away. After about an hour or half an hour of talking, bring the second course, the fruit. Cut the fruit as you're speaking and give it to him. Don't just cut it and say, don't leave it and say, "Take the fruit." No. Or don't just go one step and say, "Okay, I'm going to cut it and leave it." No. Cut it and then give it to him. The impact you'll have on his heart will be so much more different if you do it that way. You know, treat them with joy, like you're happy to have them. Keep asking them. In Arabian culture, they keep asking you, "كيف الحال كيف الحال شو أمورك شو أخبارك شو عم تعمل كيف كان اليوم كيف أهلتك." They will keep asking you these things again and again and again, right? And it's really nice because it makes you feel welcome. It feels like they're concerned with your livelihood. They're concerned with your affairs. It's not like, "Oh yeah, you've got a face made," and they start to feel like, shouldn't have come. I don't really think that I was wanted here. Really, we need to think about these things. Send them away with something. Have a goodie bag. Say, "You know what? Just take this. Give it to your wife. Give it to your kids. They will love you for this." This is honoring them. Hadith. There's a hadith. Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that Jibreel alayhi salam kept on telling me about the guests, neighbors that I thought that they were going to inherit from me. You know, why? Because it's a thing that's very important. It's easily skipped by people. The hadith reminder was basically for us, not for the Prophet. You know, he's not someone who's going to be remiss in anything told to him just once. And he was of noble character even before Islam. But the message is for us. How many of us do this? Right? Try to imbue or imbibe this. That's it for today's lesson. May Allah give us the ability to be generous to our guests, to be generous and caring towards our neighbors who we've never known much about. May Allah give us the ability to keep silence. May Allah make silence pleasurable to us, golden to us, and whatever comes, oh Allah, we ask you that whatever comes out of our mouths is golden also. And all the filth that we're holding vanishes and we produce gold. May our silence be golden and may our speech be golden. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.